Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Canadian smoke, St. Louis heat. That's a deadly combination. All kidding aside. Hope everybody's doing okay out there. Please, please, please be careful. Alvin Reid sitting in for Charlie Brennan. And welcome to Donnybrook. Joining us tonight, Wendy Wiese from KTRS. Sitting in for Bill McClellan is Joe Holleman of the Post-Dispatch. Our lone founder again this week is Reid Hartmann from Substack and all around St. Louis. And Jason Rosenbaum, excuse me, I was trying to get it perfectly, but I messed it up. Jason Rosenbaum from St. Louis Public Radio. How you been?
I'm good, but I don't forgive you for butchering my name.
Oh, man. Change your name.
Okay. You know that my daughter's name was mistakenly Rosenbaum on her birth certificate. So
oh.
Kind of like that better, honestly. Let's continue. Hi,
All
Rosenbaum.
Right. Well, a familiar name, especially during a certain World Series. David Freese. Well, he was elected by the fans and former Cardinals to the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame, but he is denied the honor and said just for different reasons he doesn't feel up to it. And Wendy, I mean, do you feel like good decision, bad decision?
Well, this is a testament to your powers of persuasion, because for the last however many days, I thought, good for him. I thought, you know, in a world that's full of me, and I thought that, you know, this is nice. He doesn't think that he was playing Cardinal caliber baseball for a variety of personal reasons, probably some performance issues and all of that. But listening to you and your argument about how this is a matter of the team thinking that you belong there and the fans thinking you belong there, I have collapsed like a house of cards, if you will, and now I agree with you. How dare he turn down the Cardinals for this honor? I mean, I think he's a great guy.
I didn't say during the ceremony that he should break down and weep and just you know, exercise all his demons, but I thought that, you know, if you have something to say it here.
I think he's a great guy, great player, but I do think you're kind of right about this.
I disagree. I think he is, I thought it was a rather remarkable act of principle, and I'm not an expert on the 12-step program. There's no question he had multiple issues with alcohol. I mean, we weren't just dancing around it, and I think he was referring to that. Certainly in terms of on the field, it absolutely deserves to be in the Cardinal Hall of Fame. It's not even close. I mean, this isn't Cooperstown. You don't have to be in the league 10 years. I mean, he absolutely should be. What he did just alone in 2011, and remember, he was on the team that got to the World Series a couple of years later. I mean, he was a terrific player and a great St. Louis story, and remains that. I think he should be given a lot of credit and a lot of deference for the fact that he is making a statement that he feels he needs to make about his struggles, and all I can say is good for him.
At the risk of both of our reputations, I agree wholeheartedly with Ray.
Don't do that again.
I know, I'm going to try to avoid it. It's usually pretty easy. I think it was what he felt he was comfortable with and what he wanted to do, and he talked about, I wasn't the person I wanted to be. So whatever it is he's working out or has worked out, I'm all for it, because, as Ray mentioned, this is not Cooperstown. We're not, that's a whole different kettle of fish. That's like a very big deal. This is a nice honor that local clubs have of all kinds of variety, and it's neat to be a member, I guess. But the thing is that if you ask any Cardinal fan over the last 50 years, what's the moment you most remember? It's Freese's home run in Game 6, and nothing will ever change that. And I don't think that making him be in a Hall of Fame does anything to that one way or the other, and I applaud him for doing what he was most comfortable with.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I honestly don't know who's in the Cardinals Hall of Fame. I assume Ozzie Smith is in there and several other players.
He's in a couple of them.
But nobody should be like forced to join some, celebratory thing against their will if they're not comfortable with doing it. I don't care if it's the Cardinals Hall of Fame, the White Sox Hall of Fame, or the Brewers Hall of Fame, if those two teams have it. I tend to think that it's really David Freese's choice, and if he doesn't want to be in it, that's his decision.
Well, and maybe the message really is especially important right now when we are talking about mental health and wellness in a way and in areas and arenas that we have never talked about them before. So maybe that is a really positive thing.
It's interesting to say we're talking about it. We should have been talking about it. We sort of were, but weren't in the time he was having his difficulties. Because in, I think, a 3-year period, the Cardinals had, I want to say, 4 serious scandals. One of them was his arrest in 2009 at .23. In 2009, it was just a couple years, I think, after Josh Hancock was killed in an alcohol-related driving accident. And then Tony La Russa had his in that same era. And I think, is it Spezia? There was one other player.
Scott Spezia had.
Yeah, had a problem. And so the Cardinals had like 4 in 4 years. And so I'm just responding, I guess, not on the subject so much of Freese, is that
Wellness.
we're talking about a little more than we were then. Yeah. Maybe should have then.
And, not that I'm saying that I wish Bill were here, Joe, but Bill wrote a column in regard to an incident that happened near Thanksgiving. And just Bill caught all kind of flack for it. Kind of, how dare you? And so that's why I'm saying, like, maybe David could come back and say, like, look, for all those, those who didn't believe in me, I'm not mad at you.
Yeah, this is a different situation, obviously, but when Terrell Owens was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he was so upset that he was passed over several times that he actually, went to his alma mater in Tennessee.
That's true.
I'm not saying this is comparable, but perhaps David Freese could have done something similar where he, went somewhere and said, I'm not accepting this for reasons X, Y, and Z, and maybe give the money to, Alcoholics Anonymous or things for mental health. I mean, I'm not saying he should do that. I stand by what I said, but I'm just pointing that there are alternatives to doing what he's doing.
Okay. Hal Lanier and the Secret Weapon, Jose Oquendo, will be going in to the Cardinal Hall of Fame in August. It'll probably be cooler on that day than it is today. All right. America's biggest birthday party. St. Louis used to be part of it. Man, people came from all around the world to be here on the 4th of July. Oprah Winfrey, Aretha Franklin, many more were here over the 3-day festival. Well, Fair St. Louis is now down to 1 day, and it's like a day-night doubleheader, Ray. The parade's in the day, and the fireworks are at night. Is this death knell for Fair St. Louis? Should we be concerned?
Well, no, I don't suppose it is. They're talking about bringing it back. It's sort of special for me because 40 years ago, probably the very first issue the Riverfront Times fought against was public funding of the VP Fair, as it was called then. And I think we had a little something to do, along with Comptroller Rivers Jones at the time, with that gravy train of like $650,000 being cut off, and you kind of hard to let go of that. It was a terrific event for a long time. It was always, I don't know why, I think it was a sign of our civic insecurity. I always talk about that we had to try to make it into more than it was. Who knows if it was the biggest and all this other stuff. But it was a good event, a good solid event for many years. And it went from being kind of overplayed to now, I don't know all the factors that have caused its demise. I've always liked it better when it was called Fair St. Louis than the VP Fair, for my own reasons.
Yeah, ditto.
but for those reasons. But having said that, hopefully it'll come back. It's basically now just a fireworks show, and I think it is. And I don't know with the how the renovation of the Arch Grounds, how's this work, but I thought it was a great St. Louis event. And it'd be nice if it came back just being what it is without being oversold or undersold. It'd be nice if it came back, but it's ironic for me to be saying that.
I never had a problem with the people who organized the fair overselling it. nobody bills their party as the third biggest party.
Right.
in
There's
the
not that
United
many people,
States.
but we sure have a great time.
Right, yeah. It's sparsely attended, but it's a blast.
It's fun.
So the problem was everybody who reported it as such.
Thank you.
Including us at the time. But I think what we have to do is wait till next year. Okay, there was the COVID in 2020, killed it off. 21, people still weren't sure what to do. 22, there was some stuff. Now we've got this abbreviated version, but they say they're planning for a bigger and better return in 2024. We'll see if the Fair St. Louis is something that St. Louisans actually want, or if it's something that just fades away like things do over time. And I think we'll know next year. I always hear people, they go, well, it's the crime, well, it's this. It could be all of those things. It could be none of those things. I think we can't judge until 2024. The organizer's saying we're coming back with a bigger one next year. We'll see.
Well, the arch grounds were under construction for a couple of years. That sort of threw everything off. We're not the Fortune 500 company or company town that we used to be. Civic progress doesn't exist anymore, thanks to you. In large part. But it's just a very different city. And I do think it will come back, but I think it is going to take a little while.
Yeah, so from my perspective, as somebody who has small children, we got to ask ourselves, is this something that we really want to spend a day off doing? Is this something that our kids would like? I think in my kids' instance, for various reasons, the answer would be no. And I think that probably another unsaid reasoning behind this is lots of people have moved away from the city of St. Louis and go to 4th of July celebrations in, Central and West County or St. Charles or Jeffco, and they just don't want to go to St. Louis, not for crime reasons, but just for logistical reasons. So I do know that last year Third Eye Blind played at Fair St. Louis. Blue is a wildly underrated album, but I don't think that act, even though I love Third Eye Blind, is enough to draw people to that. So maybe they need bigger acts.
That was in Forest Park, right? I mean,
I think so.
Yeah,
wherever Fair St. Louis was last year.
And again, it's very ironic for me to be saying it, but I think the idea of a downtown festival, even a small one, framed by the Arch, which is unique, and the fireworks, I think we should want that to come back. And I reiterate what I've said before. I don't care how people remember it. I was there in the 80s and 90s. People were worried about downtown crime in a level that was disproportionate. I'm not saying that they're the same today. And my point is, I think one of the points we always made was the VP Fair, which had a large number of people, albeit not what the newspaper, 4.6 billion when it never was that big. But the point is, it was evidence that when there are a lot of people downtown, you can come downtown and be safe. And I think we would show that again today.
The 80s and the 90s, that was when it was most high. That's when attendance was highest.
But there's nothing to really disagree. I'm saying that the amounts.
No, I'm talking to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was highest, but people were worried about their safety.
Interesting side note, that kept the police department. We got those estimates because being a new reporter in the 80s and 90s, guess who got assigned to cover the VP Fair?
Right.
Me.
Right.
So I was down there for that, and you would ask police, how many people do you estimate?
Right.
And you know how it worked. They'll go, 2.3 million. So you wrote it down, you called into the editor, you said, they're saying about 2.3 million. Then when we got and the police quit estimating.
Right.
Police quit giving out.
But we were the ones who were shaming them about it.
But they had the Children's Village. It was a very family-friendly event. Yeah, it was a very family. We took Metrolink down there with our kids.
But
So
the kids' sensibilities have changed since the 80s, and they like to do other things besides go to fairs.
What kid doesn't like an air show with a Harrier jet, like doing its thing on the Mississippi River?
I don't like loud noises.
Alvin,
like that.
I think it would be a good thing for downtown, and it would show people you could come downtown and be safe. That's all I'm saying.
All right, yeah, I agree.
I hope it comes back.
I do
think
too.
we'll find out next year if all of these reasons
We'll see.
seems to be dying are true, or if this is indeed just a hiatus, slow period. We'll see next year.
All right. Donnybrook, first week of July next year. We'll see. All right. didn't have a problem with the Board of Aldermen voted themselves raises. Absolutely, because they went from 28 to 14, more work, bigger areas. You know how it goes. County Council voted themselves a big raise. Jason, you got a problem with that?
Whether or not I have a problem with it is kind of irrelevant, but I think people who do have a problem with it are playing into what I see as a trend of treating local government in St. Louis like a volunteer charity board and expecting that people that are making decisions about hundreds, millions of dollar budgets get paid the equivalent of a Christmas ham and a vinyl edition of Taylor Swift's Reputation. Both of those things are horribly overrated, and both of those things would not be enough to have me be screamed at by people who think that going to Tower T mutates your DNA 50 weeks a year. I've combined like multiple things and multiple mixed metaphors.
I like Christmas.
My point is, St. Louis County Council people were paid significantly less than other counties. There are obviously outliers like Boone County where they pay their county commissioners like over $100,000 a year. But and I've heard all the arguments, like all the districts are mainly incorporated except the 4th and the 6th. But it's still a decent amount of work, and $20,000, I think, provides a disincentive for people to run, and I don't think it's enough for the work that's actually done. You apparently think it's too much?
Well, I think that they created their own drama and everything. When I was, growing up, and even as an adult, you went to a county council meeting, and it was like 15 minutes, and they said, like, they gave some retirement awards, and everybody went home.
But then they shut down the county and put down like really restrictive restrictions. Sorry for the redundancy, but that showcased how important county government can be on individual lives. You could disagree with whether or not those things should have happened, but I think that showed that paying people who make those decisions $20,000 a year at least needed to be revisited.
Oh, of course, and if anything, 40,000 would be interesting to see how it compares to comparable counties around the country. Not every little county in this area, but the idea is it'd be interesting to see a county of 1 million people in other markets, what they make as council people. And I'm sure I would think it's more than 40. So I don't think that's the issue. And like with the aldermen, it's all about optics. And it's just, I think it's something that it's hard to overstate how small a part of what they spend is, and people should be spending more time worried about that, I think, than the symbolic part. And yeah, that's how I look at it.
The dysfunction was really headline making for a very long time, and you are absolutely correct. I mean, people were screaming for the head of Sam Page, who handily defeated his opponent for county executive. So I don't know if it's the fact that we have attention spans like hummingbirds these days, but they are largely responsible for their own drama.
I think anytime anybody votes for a raise in a position that they hold, you're going to be criticized.
Right.
It's just, you said, it's the optics. It doesn't look good. To clarify, one, you don't get that raise until you're reelected.
Yep.
You don't get it.
I was going to say that. Yep, continue.
Thank you.
I agree with
you. You're
welcome.
So you don't get that raise. If you have a problem with that, don't vote for that person. It's the other thing is, what are we going to do about these elected officials?
Well,
then
vote them out.
Don't vote for them or run against them.
Right.
Yeah, if you don't like it, and you want to change it, run for county council.
All right, well,
you get $40,000 now.
Man, you're gonna be sitting in this seat because you just gave me a really good segue. Speaking of running for office, David Mueller is running for circuit attorney office head job. Spit it out, Alvin. And he had a client who was apparently on the way to his last hearing, would be over. As David Mueller said, he would be out of the judicial system, and he was killed. But David Mueller made some statements about just, I don't want to make him sound like he was like a, bleeding heart liberal, but it wasn't the things that you, would hear from a honed, sharp-edged prosecutor these days. So, Joe, good for him, or now you got no chance of getting elected, or where do we go from here?
Everybody's got a chance. And after considering that Kim Gardner got removed from office or quit, resigned, whatever, so you have Gabe Gore in there. Now, will Gabe Gore run again? There's a lot of questions. David Mueller has said he wants to be the circuit attorney. I don't think this hurts him. First aside, it's tragic what happened to the young man, but his argument that he made was really one that was addressed at how the office was under Kim Gardner, and she's no longer there. So I think a lot of what chance David Mueller has is solely dependent on what Gabe Gore decides to do when that term comes up. If he decides, you know what, I think I want to run for election as opposed to just being the appointed person, and I'm going to run for it, then he's going to have 2.5 years as an incumbent. And if he shows any kind of improvement, which I'm almost certain will be an easy task to show an improvement in that office, then he will become the favorite to win that office again. But does it hurt David Mueller? No. Do I think it helps him? Not really.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason.
I think I agree 100%. It totally depends on whether Gabe Gore runs for a full term. If he doesn't, I expect there to be more than just David Mueller running for it, because I think we've seen through the Kim Gardner saga that this office is not only like a political office that people want to win, but like you need somebody in there that actually knows what they're doing and is not going to like be such a bad manager that people quit on you and defendants are not getting their fair trial. So I think that there are probably a lot of people that want to take up that role. Whether that's Gabe Gore, whether it's David Mueller, will probably depend on a lot of factors. But I would say that if Gabe Gore is in there and he is not really nearly as controversial as Gardner, I think that the case against him getting a full term, it becomes a lot harder.
I think each candidate is going to have to be pretty nuanced, and I think that that's what we're seeing from Mueller. You know, maybe somebody else might come in and, you know, go from Kim Gardner to hang 'em high Mueller. I mean, that's not going to work in the city. And so I think he's just working out the degrees of empathy that he's going to have to demonstrate.
17 months is an eternity.
Yes, it is.
And keep in mind, if there are, we have to see. Gabe Gore seems to be off to a very good start. And to your point, that election is not going to be decided in November 24 based on whether it's an improvement of Kim Gardner. It's going to be between whatever candidates are up there. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's more than two. And so we'll just have to see. He hasn't done. I mean, I say he seems to be off to a good start. Who knows what controversies will be there between now and then? And so I think we've got to wait and see. He seems, on the face of it, Mr. Mueller, to be very qualified and passionate. And we're talking about him, which I'm sure that's good.
But one thing, but I think Gabe Gore is in a honeymoon period right now, when he has to start making a lot more difficult decisions, including dropping cases which may have lingered on too long. The honeymoon may be over after that. We'll just have to see.
Okay. All right. Well, Starbucks workers here in St. Louis have joined others nationally in having a protest in regard to they were not allowed to have like Pride Day posters, or I guess wear Pride Day paraphernalia or things while they were at work within their facilities. And then at the same time, the National Hockey League has ruled that teams, including the St. Louis Blues, can no longer wear like pride jerseys or Black Lives Matter or any other kind of cause during their skating warm-ups. And Ray, I mean, where are we at on this? They're going too far. Individual rights are being trampled.
Well, I have grown weary for a long time of all these social, cultural war issues, whatever, being litigated about symbols and just not substance and so forth. You know, I happen to think that the Starbucks workers are on the right side of history, doing their walkout. They have a union and they made their statement. I happen to agree with it. Others might not. Certainly, I mean, Starbucks itself, you know, all these companies today, whether you're Anheuser-Busch or Disney or whoever you are, have to make decisions about their clientele and their image. I think Starbucks made a very poor choice given its general perception as being sort of a liberal, progressive sort of company, because they certainly don't look like it right now. But, you know, that's their decision to make. It's certainly their right to make it. As far as the hockey, I don't like seeing players told they have to wear a uniform or a sweatshirt and warming up at all. But I also don't necessarily think that they should be told they can't. Okay, so I think I'm somewhere in the middle on that. I mean, I think the most important criteria I have for pride celebrations and others is that they be sincere, that they not just be marketing gimmicks. And so if a team wants to make a celebration, it should. If it doesn't, fine. And it should live with people's reaction to it. Let the chips fall where they may.
I think after the Bud Light and the fact that the two marketing principles were blown out just quietly within the last couple of days, I think Bud Light is something that will be taught in marketing college courses for a very long time, and because of that, I think all of these organizations are stepping back, just thinking we've got to get our bearings, we've got to figure out how political an organization do we want to be, and I think it will eventually find its golden middle. But I think now I understand the retreat.
Well, and I believe that all of these are sincere, in that Anheuser-Busch was sincerely interested in selling more beer. The NHL is sincerely interested in selling more tickets. So when we come down to let's determine their sincerity, they sincerely want to put
they want
more
a larger
people in their
market
stands.
share.
I got that.
That's right.
That's not the sincerity I was talking about.
But when you talk about what companies are sincere about,
I got it.
That's what they're sincere.
I agree with
I think it's pretty clear that this is a backlash of people that, you know, don't like symbols about LGBTQ rights, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of pushback.
Well, the interesting thing...
Okay, we got to go to letters. Thank you. No letters, but you can send us a letter to Donnybrook, care of 9 PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Send us an email to donnybrook@9pbs.org and a tweet to #DonnybrookSTL. Call us, Donnybrook comment line, 314-512-9094. And catch us on a podcast with Apple, Spotify, Google Play, or Tune In. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Joe, for sitting in. Charlie's back next week, as is Bill. We'll get the whole family back together again. Please have a happy and safe 4th of July. Stay cool. We'll see you next week.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.